Hello! In this video, I'm going to show you how to use alternatives. This function is used when an alternative to the service originally selected needs to be found. The function is most useful when an alternative is needed because the service originally selected turns out to be unavailable when the project is booked. So we will consider this scenario first. When the service originally selected is unavailable, for example Cloud9, to view alternatives in Service Basket, click on the alternative icon. The alternative screen pops up as valid for the specific project and service. The header shows the project reference and the name of the provider and service. Keeping the filters as per default, click Refresh to display a list of services that would be a good alternative, ranked according to how similar they are to the original service. For each filter, you can keep the default setting or adjust it. The date filter by default shows the dates of the original service. In this example, from 10 to 12 May, meaning the nights of 10, 11 and 12 May. If an alternative is only needed for one of the nights, the dates can be amended. For example, from 12 to 12 May, if only the last night is needed. And click Refresh. Note how the display changes. The maximum number of alternatives is by default 60, but this can be amended. For example, to 10. And click Refresh. Note how the display changes with only 10 displayed. By default, a distance of 30 kilometers around the current service is considered, meaning locations within 30 kilometers. For example, Blowback and Milnerton. This can be adjusted, for example, to 5 kilometers. And click Refresh. Note how the display changes with further away locations now excluded, for example, Blowback. Or, alternatively, the same location can be selected, showing the location of the current service, for example, City Bowl, and click Refresh. Note how the display changes. The column location is hidden and only services in the same location are displayed. Max rate by default is 50% higher than the per person rate of the current service. This can be adjusted, for example, to 800 and click Refresh. Note how the display changes with only services matching the maximum rate entered displayed. Rooms between 3 and by default 500 are displayed, which can be adjusted up or down if size is important. For example, to 20, click Refresh. Note how the display changes with only alternatives with less than 20 rooms being displayed. The list of services displayed are ranked according to how similar they are to the original provider from best to highest percentage to worst, then by alphabetical order of provider name. Clicking on the provider name displays the provider details page in the main T-Web window, for example, Casa do Sol. By default, only the best matching services of a provider is displayed. Clicking on the plus next to the provider name displays additional services if there are any. For example, Chestnut Country Lodge. For each service, the location, provider type, number of rooms, provider category, rate per person, availability for the specific dates, and whether it is a preferred service is displayed. Availability indicates RQ if it is on request. For example, Hotel Numbi. Yes if available, for example, Chestnut Country Lodge. And check if availability comes from an external booking engine, for example, Casa do Sol. Clicking on Check updates the display with the latest status. No indicates that the service is not available. For each provider, the booking contact details are displayed to make it easier to check availability by phone when there is no online availability. Sometimes a large number of providers might need to be checked before a suitable alternative is found. There are 4 actions possible. Under Book, click on the Add to Project icon to add the service to the project and send the booking. For example, Chestnut. Pick and click on the Add to Project icon to add the service and send the provisional booking. For example, for Hotel Numbi. Under UC, click on the Add to Project as UC icon if the service is unavailable but you want to record that you tried it as an alternative. For example, Sambonani. Note that Done appears when the action is completed and the services currently in the project appear highlighted in gray. To temporarily eliminate a service from the list, click on the cross to hide it. When you have finished all the actions in Service Basket, note how the alternatives have been added. Link to alternatives with the status RS for the service on request, for example Hotel Numbi, OK for the service with online availability, for example Chestnut, and UC for the service added as unconfirmed, for example San Bonani. Alternatives are automatically linked to alternatives, for example Cape Milner, Rosedene, and Cape Provera. They appear on the reference and bookings are managed for them. For example, Cape Milner, Rosedene, and Cape Provera. But they do not appear on the itinerary and they are not included in the rates. Alternatives are meant to be temporary to manage availability problems. Once the situation has been resolved, in other words, once the client has accepted an alternative, the providers that are not needed, including the original provider as well as unavailable and rejected alternatives, must be cancelled. In Service Basket, click on the red cross to cancel. Note that the action needs to be repeated for each night booked with the provider. The chosen alternative, for example, Rosedene Guest House, must be amended from alternative to service as per project. Again, for each night. Once this is done, the alternative becomes part of the normal project. In this case, Rosedene now appears on the itinerary and the rates and invoice. In a project not yet booked, the alternative function can be used in the same way to view alternatives, but for information only. Services cannot be added. And that is it. Thank you for watching.